Guys, the US banking system might be headed for a mini Armageddon. And that is great news for crypto. But you're saying, my money's in the banks. How dare you say that? Well, is your money in JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Bank of America? Because if it is, you're fine. You're perfectly fine. But if it's in some small regional bank, you might wake up to a terrible nightmare one day. So the number of troubled banks or banks that could be insolvent because of unrealized losses has grown from quarter to quarter. It was 52 last quarter. It's 63 this quarter. It seems like a lot of these banks have been dealing in property and like real estate deals, and it has not been going well. Probably because of the high interest rates, and that's a double whammy. So the US banking system, at least the small regional banks, are becoming more and more insolvent. Now, here's the thing. If the entire banking system, if like JP Morgan and Bank of America and all those went down, it'd be financial disaster and everyone would die. But if small regional banks go down, it's not the same thing. In fact, that's just a banking combination or a banking consolidation rather than a banking collapse. That's actually very good for crypto. Although the initial reaction might be like, oh my God, our financial system is going to crap. People will eventually recover from that, realize that their money in Bank of America and JP Morgan Chase is fine, and realize, hey, we might actually need to do something else besides banks for our money. Remember, last time this happened when SVB failed and like a lot of other banks failed, I think like a top 50 bank actually failed. It was a big regional bank failed. Bitcoin did go down initially, but then went way up. In fact, in that like 1 or 2 week period, we actually went from 21,000 to about 28,000. This was March of 2023, if you guys don't remember. So people actually losing faith a little bit in this banking system, but while not having all their assets go to crap is actually good for crypto because it pumps money into crypto. And the double whammy comes because this actually does pressure the Fed to relinquish those high interest rates soon, because what's destroying those banks is the high interest rates, folks. The high interest rates are completely destroying the smaller banks. The bigger banks have enough collateral, they have enough assets, and they have enough partnerships and things like that to actually weather the storm. The smaller banks cannot weather the storm, and they are being absolutely annihilated. 63 banks is a small fraction of the US banking system, but there's probably other banks that are on the precipice of being troubled and insolvent either. The unrealized losses have gained over the last 9 quarters, and that's exactly the time since basically the interest rates have gone up. So the banks cannot afford these interest rates anymore. And the Fed is probably feeling a lot of pressure from some of these banks to lower the interest rates. If the Fed lowers interest rates, it brings the bond rate down, obviously. Might affect inflation, but it brings the bond rate down. And because it brings the bond rate down, that means crypto becomes more attractive because interest rates on regular assets are lower, which means you can't quite make the same ROI you could on them a while ago. So overall, this is very good for crypto in 2 different ways. And we can definitely look at this as an opportunity that's coming up in the second half of this year, because the Fed does not want all these little banks to fail. I mean, I don't think they really care if there's banking consolidation or not, but it's not in their interest to have all these little banks fail, because it actually looks bad on them. Now, I mean, like the inflation stuff, it's not necessarily their fault. It kind of is, but it kind of isn't. And they've been trying to manage it the best they can. But this actually would look very bad on them. And I think it propels us to have like maybe 2 or 3 rate cuts this year instead of just 1. And I don't think we're getting a rate cut until August. But this actually may propel the Fed to do rate cuts, because these banks are basically like going down the drain. So I wouldn't be afraid unless your money is in a small regional bank. I would not fret. If it is, you might want to think about opening up a Bank of America or JP Morgan Chase account and putting some of your money in there, because those banks are probably not going to go insolvent. It's the small banks that are having trouble. It's going to be a banking consolidation, but it will also make some people lose some faith in the banking system and put their money elsewhere, like in crypto, just like they did in March of 2023 with the bank fallout. The other small piece of news we have is the SEC suffered another defeat. Not so much the hands of crypto, but it actually might influence the way they can actually manage crypto. Basically, it was an appeals court, so they don't really have anywhere to go anymore, because I don't think the Supreme Court actually hear this one. They basically said the SEC overreached its jurisdiction by requiring a lot of hedge funds to actually disclose and be more transparent with holders. And they said the Congress did not give the SEC such power. So this is more evidence that courts are reining the SEC in more and more, and they're not going to just be able to do whatever they want. The SEC keeps on saying like the Dodd-Frank Act and other acts have already given us this authority, but the courts are like, no, it did not give you the authority. You are literally making that up and pulling it out of your ass, and they're not being very friendly to the SEC, which is good for crypto because I think it impacts crypto as well, because they can't be so tyrannical to the crypto industry. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you, and have a nice day.